Since 2010, there have been 16 cases that the Justice Department has brought with regards to the construction of mosques and Muslim community centers due to local communities not permitting them to build their own facilities. That's more than was done the entire time under President Bush. And it wasn't that they didn't pursue it. They did pursue investigations. But in recent years, especially after President Obama's election, there has been an increased level of hostility. Reza mentioned, being in positions and having that natural bias. We had an example of that just recently, where the New York Police Department, where after an 8-month investigation, the Associated Press, after interviewing 40 federal and state officials, current and former, issued a report and a series of news articles now that have been coming out for the past month on practices by the New York Police Department involving the surveillance of the Muslim community in New York and at least 4 other states and abroad. And looking at that story as an attorney, I saw a number of legal issues that I would not have appreciated before. And so I did some more research on the issue, and I spoke with my senator, and I said, Senator, this is an issue of concern, and your community was actually targeted. The senator also represents one of the largest Pakistani communities in the United States in central Brooklyn, the area of Coney Island Avenue. And so he was like, well, what should we do? And knowing the law and knowing constitutional issues, as Thal has another attorney up here, the state constitution of New York actually provides you greater protections than the federal constitution. So I recommended to him that we should ask the Attorney General of New York to investigate any potential wrongdoing. The senator agreed. And initially we thought it would be just a letter from him. Then he was like, you know what? We should get other members to support this. And over the course of a couple of days, we had 6 other senators sign on to our letter, which then went to the Attorney General. Within 10 minutes of us issuing our press release, you saw articles coming out in the New York, in various publications, even down here in Washington, D.C., in the Washington Post. And that's just, an example of, you see something, and then you push forward with it. And so there's different ways to affect change. One is legislative, one is political, one is legal. And so there's different approaches to going to these problems. So I just wanted to, since Reza brought that issue up, I wanted to discuss it.
In weightlifting in general, they weren't used to having women. It was only 30 years ago that the first women competed at a USA national competition, and it wasn't until the Sydney Olympics that women actually competed. So that was one boundary. And then as far as dress, that was another one which I brought up, because as far as I knew, no one had ever asked, could I wear something looser? Could I cover myself and still participate? I asked around about martial arts classes, and I wanted to know who would be okay with the way I dressed, because the way I dressed is that I wear the headscarf, the hijab, I cover my arms and legs and such. And so I found a lady who took a class, and she said the instructor's good, and he's fine with it. And so then I did that in the weightlifting, and then I started getting into Olympic weightlifting, and the coaches that were there encouraged me to compete, but I didn't think I was a competitor, but I finally did it. Basically what happened is I dressed, when you go to local competitions, it doesn't matter what you wear, and then I had qualified for national competition. This is just a short story, so I'll let you guys answer questions later, is you have to wear a singlet. I said I can't wear this, and so I talked to people, lawyers and coaches and such, and then I wrote to them, and then press release went out, and that's when everything went nuts. And then because of the media attention that I got, I was able to submit a presentation to the International Weightlifting Federation to show that you can still determine a lockout. That was one of the reasons for showing the arms, that there are things you can wear to still show that that's not a lockout. And the same thing with the knees, that you could just wear the knee pads over clothing. And then finally, when they said, yes, you can wear it, I got to go to the senior nationals. I had 2 weeks to prepare, so I didn't do my best, but I'm glad I got to go.
It's easy to go up and just say something and say, I believe in this, but you have to be prepared. You have to substantively understand things, either the law or other policies. So, Kulsum, if you could talk about that, and then I'll go to the other panelists to discuss you know, what preparation was required to mount that legal effort of sorts in addressing this issue?
Well, all right. Well, basically the singlet is something that's been very traditional, but as far as the rules are concerned, is that when you do a lift, you have to get it overhead in a lockout. You can't catch it and then press it out. And to complete a lift, you have to be standing straight up. Your knees can't be bent. So that was, you know, that's the reasoning for showing the arms and the legs, and that was kind of the crux of the matter. What we did is, you know, I looked into different options, different types of materials and clothing that could be worn, the knee pads, and then I put this into a presentation. Since I had the opportunity, I thought I'm just going to give them all the different options that I could think of and give them reasons to why would they want to do this. And so when they got that, I think that's what helped, not just saying, hey, I want to do this, you got to give me the right, you got to, you know, you have to see what the reasoning is behind why the rules are there, and maybe there's a way to come to a conclusion. Because in my case, I think no one has ever asked, hey, I want to weight lift, but I also want to cover.
Many of you may have this in your own lives, you know, or your parents, your families may have this in your own lives. You have an issue, and you want to have that issue resolved, but you don't know quite how to do it, and it seems daunting to do so. So what do most people do? They just give up. Most people just accept whatever situation they have, and they don't go forward with it. And it's very easy to do that because it seems daunting to do so. But Coulson, you know, what she did is really the essence. Again, I just bring back to the essence of what I feel is politics and our American democracy. She, you know, instead of, I mean, I don't think she's someone who wanted. I think she's someone who wanted to lift weights, not become an advocate. I don't think you set out to become an advocate for a cause. So it's not an easy thing. I mean, it's easy for me, the mayor. We got big mouths, you know. It's easy for us to just get up somewhere and talk about something. But if you're an average person, you don't want to necessarily do that. But if you don't do it, it's not going to happen, because the easy thing for them to say to her was, well, look, you know, you can't show your elbows and your legs. So it's going to look like a lockout, or I don't know. But not look like a, I'm going to state it wrong, but the easy thing for them is to just dismiss it and to dismiss you and to move on. And if you don't write the appeal, if you don't show your face, if you don't keep going back and forth, it's badgering. No. You just keep going. You're always polite. You're always presentable, but you just keep stating your point time and time again until you have no further appeal left.